Okay. All right. So we're officially started. So it was really good to hear from you last week. Did you get a chance to look at last week's lesson?
No.
Okay, cool. You know where to find them, right?
I just go on the website.
Yeah. So if you do your login, then the pages that, of course, you're in both programs, so you'll have lots of things. But added to that is it says FFTF for From Food to Faith, archived meetings, and then there's also the call calendar. So
Okay.
if you're ever somewhere and you forget how to log in, it's always on the calendar, or if
Okay.
the dates change or something. And then the archive calls are in there. So last week we really went over the natural laws of health, is what I'm calling them right now, kind of the basics of what we're aiming for. And I think that's really important because, everybody's looking for, well, what are the rules? And it's not that there's really rules, it's that what I'm trying to do is share what looks to me like the natural laws that God created, and and the goal is to kind of align ourselves with that, rather than having these rules that somehow I've established, or, that are a new diet type thing. And it's really not that. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
I
just realized I didn't have Zoom on this computer, and apparently I don't have a video on this computer either. So here I am.
Okay, cool. Well, Mitzi's here with us this week, so I was just catching her up on what we did last week. So yeah, like I said, last week we went through those 5 basic steps of, the natural eating and ways of taking care of our body. And the first one is just, stay within hunger and fullness. Second one is eating mindfully. And that also applies to doing everything mindfully, whether, how we take care of our bodies. And then should have had it pulled up in front of me, because when my brain gets off on one thing, then I forget stuff. But here we go. Then I won't forget anything. Okay. So right now I'm calling them the natural laws of health, because I didn't want it to sound like some sort of regimented, if you break this rule, you've now broken your diet sort of thing. But if you guys think of a better name for it, I'm totally open for that. So I've got honor your body's hunger and fullness. Eat what your body wants, paying attention to what your body actually wants, eating mindfully, and then love and respecting yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit, which is a lot of stuff to talk about right in one thing, and then being patient with yourself. So those are the 5 things we cover. When you watch last week's discussion that Julie and I had, I think you'll really like that. Okay. And then the homework was to pick one thing out of those 5 and really focus on it this week, and just kind of see if it made a difference, journal about that experience. So Julie, did you have a chance to do that?
Well, I was trying to be a little more aware of my fullness. I don't know that I really journaled very much about it.
Okay.
So,
what was your experience like?
It was good. It was good. I mean, I think there was a few times when I realized I was full and I didn't go for more. And there was a few times when I did realize I was full and I went for more anyway.
Well, and I think, for me, that's totally normal, because it's more about, when you're focusing on that, it's kind of about learning, all right, why did I keep eating anyway?
Yeah.
Beliefs that are ingrained in me that made me feel like eating more would be better than not eating more. Did you figure anything like that out for yourself?
Oh, I've figured that out for a while now. It's just, I love the taste, and I want to be, part of it is just wanting the sugar, just the over desire for sugar.
Mm-hmm. The craving.
And part of it is social. Last night we had a family get together, and normally we provide all the food, and everyone showed up with a dessert last night. So there were like 15 of us, and I think we had 6 desserts, and there was 2 we didn't even pull out. It was ridiculous. So I finished eating my dinner, and I thought, okay, I'm not taking another bite, I'm full. And then all these desserts came out, and that was the end of it.
So it's interesting, because that's something we all relate to, right?
Yes. What's that?
Yeah, we all relate to that. I mean, there's not a single one of us doesn't relate to that. But let's uncover really quickly, what are the beliefs we have that make us do that? Just for
well,
both.
Everyone else is doing it.
Everyone else is doing it. So we believe that we need to do what everybody else is doing to be comfortable. Okay, what else?
some of it's unconscious too, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot going on, and so you're just consuming.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so some of it's hard to really even notice when you stop liking it, or if you were too full and were uncomfortable and all that because you're distracted.
Right. Distraction, yeah.
What about, I know for me, there's a belief that I will miss out if I don't have it right now,
Oh, yeah.
right? That if like these people brought this dessert, it's not like I'm going to make it tomorrow. They're going to take the leftover home. If I don't have it, it's going to be gone. And I have this sense of I'm going to miss out on something good,
Mhm.
right? And I don't want to miss out on anything good. So I better get it now while I can.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a problem for me. And the interesting thing is, the more I get in tune with what my body and my mind and everything is thinking when I'm doing that, the more I realize when I'm too full, then I don't even enjoy what I did have. And so I try to do things like, man, I'm actually full right now, but can I save a piece of that for later?
Mhm.
Or can I get the recipe from you, or whatever. Or sometimes I just ignore it and try to remind myself, you're not missing out if you're just putting something in you that your body's just going to be miserable anyway. But it's interesting because we have a lot of beliefs that, for me, there's a big belief that extra is better. The more, the better. If 2 bites of it is great, then 20 bites of it is better.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that we get trapped in those things. So any thoughts on that for you, Mitzi, before we move on, even though you didn't have a chance to look at it?
I was gonna say last night I had a chocolate chip cookie, and the first bite I took, it was like, this isn't that great. But of course, I ate the whole cookie. Why can't I just, put it down after that first bite? It's like, it's
Because
not
there
that.
was some other reason, there's some other reason you wanted to eat it, right?
Yeah.
Some other reason. Can you think of any reason that there might be?
Um.
Anything you might have wanted to distract from?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think of the situation. I can't remember. I know it was later and we were getting ready for bed, and I don't know.
So maybe today would be a good chance to just think about just that one experience last night. How was I feeling? Did I want to distract from anything, or was I just tired and I didn't care? What were the reasons behind it? I know this week I found myself taking a couple handfuls of some candy that was lying around when I was not eating it for the right reason. It wasn't because it tasted good, and it wasn't because I was hungry. I just really was starting to numb a little bit. And then I realized we have company in town that I'm not a very good host. I get kind of, that kind of stuff's a little bit stressful for me. And there was some contention in our house this weekend. We had a little disagreement between a couple people, which stresses me out big time. And I had to really, after about a half hour of kind of finding myself grabbing a little bit here and grabbing a little bit there, I had to be like, you know what, I'm totally using this to numb myself from the situation, and it's not gonna change the situation. So I actually verbally out loud when I was alone said to myself, okay, I'm not eating anything else until it's time for dinner. And I think I went and got a piece of gum or something to, distract me, and then just went back to my thing. But it's pretty normal for us to jump back into those numbing, distracting behaviors. And it seems like, well, this part of my life sucks and this part is really sweet, so I'm going to grab the sweet while I can and enjoy it.
There was a point yesterday that I did stop myself from getting into that little dessert thing, so that was
Good for you. Good for you. How did you do it?
Well, I went to grab for it, and I can't remember if I even opened the container or not, but then I just thought, no, I don't need that right now. Stop it.
Good for you. Good for you. One of the analogies that I like, when we're trying to make these big changes with the way we eat, it can be really frustrating because it's the opposite of the quick fix promise that everybody gives. And I'm as impatient as the rest of you guys. I just want to, be healthy. I want to stop these stupid habits right away, and I want to be perfect at it. But if you think of like somebody who's digging a hole and they're standing in the hole, right? They're digging the hole and it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Sometimes we think of progress is just, I just want to be out of the hole and standing back at the top. But the first step is to stop digging, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at first your progress may look like I'm still digging, but I'm digging a little slower than I was, right? That's progress. That's still progress. And then later you'll learn to stop digging. And then eventually you'll learn to start filling in the hole. But it's a process. And so great. The fact that you took one opportunity yesterday to say, you know what, this isn't what I really want. And to be aware of that, that's huge progress. So pat yourself on the back for that.
Okay.
When you write your journal, write it down, right?
Okay.
That's huge. Well, cool. All right. So last week when you get on, also when you get on that page, Mitzi, did you see the food for thought download, Julie, when you got on the page?
You know what? I don't have my login right now. So yeah, I'm sure it's there. I just haven't accessed it yet.
Okay. You can reset your password if you need to or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you have any problems with that. So right next to the, what I do is when this class is over, I upload the video. I was telling Julie last week, I'm not going to make them downloadable only because I would encourage everybody to be face-to-face if possible and to be as vulnerable as possible. And so I think it helps people feel a little more comfortable if they think, well, people aren't going to download this and have it everywhere on their stuff. Just they can access it, but it's not going to go everywhere. So I'll have the video, and then right next to it, I have a PDF for the week, which is the food for thought to work on.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up on the Facebook page, and it wasn't in the files, and then I realized, oh shoot, it's on the page.
I bet, you know what? I guess I could upload it to the Facebook page. Would you guys like that?
Would be awesome.
I don't care.
I'll throw it on both. It's easy enough to upload it. It's not a big deal. So I'll try to remember after this to do it. If I forget, Julie, that's your job to remind me, okay?
There you go. I have a job.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so today we're going to talk about creating your vision. And I love this part of things because this is where I actually felt myself make a shift when I started to really be able to create a vision for myself for the future. And I was actually at a John Maxwell event, and he had said during the thing, he said, stop running from and start running to. And then he goes on to explain how we run from our fears, we run from what we don't want. We're always running from the things we're afraid of, but we don't ever spend the time to create a life that we want to run to. And one of my journaling things that I did that week was I sat for hours and just started journaling about, well, what do I want to run to? And it was kind of a surprise to me that I had spent so much of my life. I realized that I had been spending my life running from, and even that all my dieting, I wasn't really running to a life of health. Now, logically, I knew that that's, of course I want to be healthy and I want to stop hurting. But when I would list why I wanted to lose weight, it was more what I didn't want. I did not want to be fat. I did not want to stand out. I did not want to have my hips hurt every time I sat in the stupid auditorium chairs at the high school that are so freakishly small. I didn't want to have to wear ugly clothes. I didn't want people to be disappointed in me. Everything was what I didn't want. And I realized, oh my crap, I have been running from my whole life. So then I sat down and started writing out, what do I want to run to? And I just started kind of trying to picture my future and what I really wanted out of it. Have you guys you've probably heard your whole life about, visualize yourself successful, right? Visualize you accomplishing what you are trying to do. Well, I would always try to picture myself as thin and picture what that would look like, right? Remember when I was 18 and what that looked like, and how I would look in a skirt and how I would feel confident going into a room and all that. And I'm telling you, I could not do it. I tried the whole 30 years I was dieting to try to picture myself as this skinny person. And for some reason, it just never, ever clicked. But when I started looking at it this way that we're going to talk about today, when I started saying, where do I want to be in 20 years from now? Everything just started falling into place, because there was something about 20 years from now. I'm 50 right now. Well, 20 years, I'm going to be 70. So I was not picturing myself looking great in a swimsuit at 70, right? To me, that's probably not even a possibility. And so I instead was thinking lifestyle. I was thinking happiness level. I was thinking, what do I want to be doing with my time? And how do I want to feel inside? And that started to become really exciting. So I started, in fact, I was going to pull up my actual journal entry for you today, but I think I have it almost memorized. I started writing things like, I want to get out of bed in the morning without my hips hurting. You know, I want to get up and have energy and not feel like I need a nap during the day. So I want to have energy to get through the whole day. Then I started picturing about my relationships. You know, I want to be able to fly and see my kids wherever they are. I want to be comfortable in the airline seat on the way there. I want to be active with my grandkids, right? Instead of hearing about my granddaughter's hike up the mountain, I would like to go on a hike up the mountain with my granddaughter. I wanted to play on the floor with the little grandkids, right? Because I've had a lot of times where I wasn't sure I could get up off the floor if I played on the floor with the grandkids. And I just started really picturing, okay, here's what I want. And as I started picturing it in what it would mean for my life, I started to get excited about it. And it was the first time, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say it took that long, but it was the first time in my life that any vision for myself was exciting and made me, oh my gosh, I want to do what it takes to get there. And I not only dealt with what I wanted my relationship with food to look like and my body. Well, actually, before I go on from there, let me cover another part that really meant a lot to me was the relationship I want with food. I didn't just want to focus on the results, right? Because everybody will promise you these great results. But at that point, I had dieted for so long that I started realizing I couldn't do it anymore. I could not count one more point. I couldn't, track one more calorie or weigh one more bowl of cereal. And I didn't want to live my life that way. So when I thought 20 years into the future about how I want to relate to food, I did not want to ever have to weigh, measure, or count anything ever again. I wanted to only think about food when it was time to think about food, right? If it was time to shop for it, prepare it, great. If it was time to eat it, great. But I didn't want it to run the rest of my life. I didn't want to even think about it the rest of the time. I wanted to be able to eat anywhere without freaking out over what they were going to be able to serve or what they had added to the ingredients or any of that kind of stuff. I just wanted to be free to enjoy my life, but I still wanted to be healthy. I still wanted to be moderate. I didn't want to be obsessed with food. I would say before that, I would have told you if I could have binged forever and not gained any weight, that's what I would want to do, that would be ideal. And now I realize that when I was binging, I was miserable because I was internally miserable and I was just trying to numb that. And so I don't want that anymore. I don't want to feel the need to binge, right? And so I don't want to just be good at sticking to a diet. I don't want to have to diet. So my husband, he oftentimes will forget to eat. I'm like, what planet are you from? Really? He would forget to eat. And he would just be so involved in whatever he was doing in his life that food came in when it was necessary and he enjoyed it. And I thought, man, I want to be like that. Right? I wasn't sure how I was going to get there, but that was definitely my goal. And then I went forward and I also talked about what I wanted 20 years from now in my job, in my relationships with people, in my relationship with God. And it was really a transformative experience for me. So let's talk about that for a minute. When you guys think about this, and I know Mitzi's had a chance to talk about this before because we've worked together before. What do you guys think about when you think, wow, where do I want to be 20 years from now in my relationship with food?
Well, I think you described it.
Yeah.
What stands out to you the most, what I described? What part went, oh yeah, I totally agree with that?
Well, I've just watched over the last year, I've watched my in-laws' health decline. My mother-in-law passed away. They've been in poor health for a number of years. They're diabetic and they don't, even before she passed away, obviously. Both diabetic and they don't even follow the guidelines for eating as a diabetic, which I know is super hard because of the treatment. It's like Benjamin, what's that man's name? I can't remember, was talking about at a BYU talk. He said giving diabetics insulin is like giving an alcoholic alcohol, because it actually exasperates the situation. So anyway, and so I know that health is something that I really, really want. And one of the things that's helped me is to do a contrast and compare. And so like I've listed down, what I don't want. And then I've created a list of, the opposite. So if I don't want this, what is it that I do want? And that's super helpful, because then you can create a list that's all in positive terms. And so instead of saying, I don't want to be overweight, it's, I want to be thin and free, or thin and happy, or, so anyway, those are some of the things that have helped me. But I've been working on this for the last, trying to change my mindset instead of just dieting for the last several months. And I'm still waiting for it to click for me.
Yeah, it's a process for sure. What are your thoughts on that, Mitzi?
I was just pulling up my journal from the last time we talked about this. And I like what you said, and I agree with you about not wanting to think about it. Like my husband Derek, he's the same way. It's an annoyance to eat.
Isn't that disgusting?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can really get there.
Yeah, it's just so foreign right now. So, same thing. I don't want to think about food. I just want to eat when, like you said, when it's time to think about food, I can think about the food. And you've said this a million times, I want to eat to live and not live to eat.
But, one thing we talked about last week is that, and it's on the webpage about the natural guidelines, is food is also for flavor, right? Sometimes the world gets stuck in, well, it's for fuel and nothing else. And it's like, okay, but you know what? You can only eat hay for so long before you just like you're going to throw in the towel. It's also for flavor, right? And it's meant to be something that God gave us to enjoy our life. In fact, there's a ton of scriptures that talk about that it's, to gladden the eye and the heart, and it's a blessing for us. And so the real trick is when we're overeating, we're no longer really doing it for the pleasure of it. When we start having that we're beating ourselves up with it, or we're numbing our real feelings from it, then it starts to get misused, right? So sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
So, no, that's okay. So how do you explain those kinds of people, like our husbands? I mean, they have problems and, things going on in their lives. Do they just use something else and not food? Or,
well, it's interesting that you asked that. At the end of this, I was going to show you, and it's on your food to thought, is I finished an ebook that's going out tomorrow. And I was going to encourage you guys to download it, because the ebook is all about how to face your fears and turn around and turn them into faith. But the beginning of the book talks about how all of us, every human being on earth, tends to run from our emotions and our feelings, the hard ones, right? And because nobody likes pain, we just will do whatever it takes to get away from pain. So everybody runs, but we all run differently, right? Some people run with anger, right? They're not happy about how something's going or how they're feeling, so they want to blame other people. They want to yell and scream. They think that's going to make them feel better. Somebody else may run by grabbing a beer, and numbing out. Some of us do food. Some people use pornography. Some people use procrastination. Some people use shopping. Some people use, whatever. But we all have a tendency to run from the things that are difficult for us, right? I know that men more than women tend to just work their way through it, right? If I stay at work and I work harder and I make more money and I whatever, then I can run from my fear that I'm not good enough. Some people run by success. I have relatives who, you know, they grew up in a pretty bad home, alcoholic situation. And a lot of them run by trying to prove their worth by being extremely successful. Right. And not that any of those things in and of themselves are horrible things, but, you know, well, some of them I would say avoid like the plague, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with being successful. But if you're doing it because you think you're worthless and you have to prove your worth, then you have to re-examine that. Eating a piece of cake is not a bad thing. If you're eating a piece of cake because you're trying to numb your life and your belief that you're a horrible mother or that you will never be worth anything in your life, then you need to re-examine that. Right. Mm-hmm. So I know with my husband, it's been extremely difficult in our marriage for him to try to understand this part of me and my struggles with that, because it's so foreign to him.
Right.
But I'll tell you, and he won't mind me sharing this, if I were to turn my computer the other direction right now, you would see his desk. And his desk is piled high with crap. Okay. He is an organizational, let's say he's lacking in that area. Okay. I, on the other hand, cannot work unless my desk is clean. I gotta have things put away. I need to be organized. I need to know where stuff is. And he just cannot. And he's been trying to overcome that as long as we've been married, just like I've been dealing with my food thing. Right. And his organizational issues affect me. Right. His stuff gets in my way. We can't find things, you know, all that stuff. And I've had to learn to deal with the fact that that's really, really hard for him. Where to me, I can easily look at him and say, well, just put it away when you set it down. Just put it away. Like, why did you just set it there? Put it where it goes, right? To me, the answer is obvious, how he could fix it. And he feels the same way about my food thing, right? He could easily turn to me and say, well, just stop eating.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't do it. And I'd be like, you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. So it's the exact same thing. Our own weaknesses, we relate to 100%. Other people's weaknesses, we're just like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you figure this out? So I try to remember when I'm frustrated with his organizational challenging, that's his food issue, right? That's just something that's extremely hard for him. So, you know, he will tell you, he doesn't like pain any more than I do, but he has different ways of dealing with it than I do. And some of them are healthy and some of them, you know, he was working on changing just like I do. Right.
I guess it goes back to, it wouldn't help any if you started smoking so you could eat less.
Yes. Yes. And actually that's really true. I mean, I
a lot of people do that
for a long time in the 12-step group that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has. And I love that group. It's so awesome. And I suggest it for everybody. But it's really interesting when you work with people in addiction, it's so easy to move from one addiction to another addiction to another addiction to another addiction, because you think the addiction is the problem. And the addiction is not the problem, right? The addiction is the symptom of the problem. So my oldest brother died of alcoholism in 2003. And it's so heartbreaking when you see how destructive we can be for ourselves. But I know him well enough to know he was running from massive self-esteem issues. Came from being abused as a child, and then not by my parents, but he was abused as a child, and he really suffered big time in believing in himself. And it showed in everything he did, not just his drinking. It showed in, you know, he barely made it through school. He did not believe in himself enough to go after good jobs. He was kind of a hermit because he suffered with kind of social anxiety and stuff. And alcohol was just his way of running. And it's interesting though, if you think that the alcohol is the problem, then you can just turn to something else. When my father-in-law gave up alcohol, and he was an extremely bad alcoholic, he was we called him a dry drunk because he still would blame everybody for his problems. He still was really difficult to be around. He was but he wasn't drinking anymore, right? And it took him a long time to work through all the things he had been running from, right? So at first he just continued to run, but by blaming other people. He still had his smoking habit. He was just kind of the same person, but he didn't drink anymore. And then over time, he started trying to really face those fears that he'd been running from. So he started looking at his past with his parents and the things that had been hard for him. He started apologizing to us as his kids and apologizing for the things he had done to them growing up. And he tried to build relationships with them, and he tried to build relationships with the grandkids. And you could see him over the decades of his life finding more and more peace. But it wasn't just giving up the alcohol he had to do. That just got it so that now everything that you've been numbing from is raw and out in the open. And you're either going to numb it some other way, or you're going to face it and overcome it. So it's important to understand why we run and to deal with those issues. Otherwise, we just run from one way of running to another way of running. Yeah, well said, Julie. So 20 years from now, what physical things, actual physical things, would you like to be able to do?
Go on a mission.
Okay, cool. I would like that too. My husband and I would love to serve a mission. And that does take physical ability, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. What else?
I would like to be able to continue to play tennis.
Sorry, say it again.
I'd like to be able to continue to play tennis.
Oh, continue to play tennis. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. What else? Keep naming them. Brainstorm for me. Like I said, I want to hike with my granddaughter. I'm not a great hiker, and I'm way out of shape in cardiovascular. I got a lot of work to do to get there.
Yeah, hiking is on my list too.
Shouldn't be that hard, really.
So let's think more basic. I would like to be able to walk without a walker.
Okay.
Now it sounds funny, but that's what my mother lives with us, and she's reliant on that. Okay. And it causes a whole lot of problems with her shoulders. And it's just this downward spiral. I would like to be able to walk by myself as long as I need to walk.
Yes. I would like to be able to bend over and tie my shoes.
Yeah. Without having to hold your breath, right? How about I want to be able to stand up on a chair to get something? Yeah. It sounds dumb, but when I haven't been working out for a long time, I have some serious hip issues that have been going on forever and for about the last 3 years. And for a while, I just tried not doing anything because it just exacerbated it. And now I struggle to just make that 90-degree step up onto a chair. My quads are like deteriorated. And so I'm like, okay, that's a problem. I should be able to step on a chair and get what I need even when I'm 90. So that's something I want to be able to do. What else?
Balance and strength are important.
Oh, big time. As soon as you watch your parents get older, you start realizing, oh, that's why we should exercise and be careful with our body weight. Yeah. Right? Before, I swear, I always joke with people, maybe this is a little crash, you have to forgive me, but I always say when I was 18, I started dieting because I worried about looking good naked. Okay. Yeah. Then when I was like 30, I was still dieting because I wanted to look good in the swimsuit. I didn't care about total naked. I was just hoping I looked good in a swimsuit. Now I just hope I look good in a parka. Right? If I look good in a parka, I'm great. But the older you get, the more you realize, no, it's about quality of life. It's really not about if my neighbor thinks that my stomach is flat in my skirt at church. Yeah. It's more about, can I actually sit up out of bed, or do I have to have a rail on the side to help me? Right?
Yeah, it's about being able to take care of yourself.
What's that? Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say I want to be able to get out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not hurt.
Yeah. Not have it take you 10 minutes to get everything moving, right?
Yeah. It's about being able to take care of yourself. I visited my 94-year-old great aunt last month, and she's still living on her own.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? So what was her lifestyle like?
It wasn't anything, like, her health is starting to deteriorate a little bit, but she's pretty spry for 93, I think. I think she's actually 94. But she She's a cute little Southern Baptist lady who just has and came from alcoholic father, divorce, living in poverty, but she just has the brightest outlook on life you've ever seen. And
That's so
she
cool.
is still mentally alert and active, and she writes poetry and writes music, and she's just remarkable.
That's really cool. So Mitzi, who's one person in your life that you can think of kind of like that? That one person you're like, oh, okay, I'd like to be like that when I'm old.
Well, my mom, I don't consider her old. She's 75, but she still walks every day and goes to Zumba and hikes with her friends and goes to lunch and, super active and driving and everything. So
that's really cool. What's her mental outlook like? Julie mentioned that the woman she's talking about had a really positive attitude.
I wouldn't describe my mom as that.
What's hers more like?
She's more, I don't know. I don't want to say negative. I mean, there are some things that she says that are negative, but
so she struggles to be positive.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, you'd like to model what she does physically.
Yes.
But you want to find somebody else to model emotionally.
Yes.
Right? Okay, good. I know Julie, when you mentioned that other woman, I thought of the woman I was named after was my great Aunt Becky. And she was just, all of you would love her. Everybody loved her. She never had her own kids, but she helped raise everybody else's kids, right? Mm-hmm. It was back in the day, everybody had like 8 kids, and her sister that would be my great grandmother passed away when my grandmother was only 14. So she took in my grandmother, and she was just this amazing woman. And she lived till she was 98. And okay, here's the perfect example of my great Aunt Becky. We went to visit her. She had ended up in a nursing home finally. She had at 97, she had already had her hip replaced 20 years earlier, and it was worn out. And the doctor told her, okay, look, you can have your hip replaced again, but at 97, there's a good chance you won't live through it. Or you could just, live in a wheelchair the rest of your life. And she chose the surgery. And within 4 months, she was totally fine. And we went to go visit her in her little rest home. I was like an assisted living place. And we're sitting there visiting with her. And all of a sudden somebody knocks on the door. And she opens it. And it's this little old lady next door who came to get her because it was time for their exercise class. She's like, sorry, I got to go. It's time for my exercise class. And the two of them, waddled down the hall with our little walkers to exercise class. And I thought, I just love you. She is just like, so everybody named their kids after her. That's why my name is Becky. She was just an amazing lady. And I think, okay, that's what I want to be like. She didn't have kids. She could have whined and cried. She never got married. Oh no, did she get married? I don't remember. Anyway, but she never whined about her life. And she always gave to other people. She stayed physically active. She stayed mentally active. And I'm like, okay, that's somebody I can model my life after, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom is 77. She just turned 77, and she's in really good health. But about 5 years ago, she decided that she was old, and I've just watched her activity level lessen and lessen. And now, and hopefully visiting Aunt Margaret helped her see that there's another alternative. But she blames it on her knee, and I'm just like, I just have a different take on life. I just like, it's not acceptable that my knee hurts. I need to figure out what's going on and fix it, and not just use it as an excuse to sit in the recliner all day long.
Right. Or if you can't fix it, then find something else you can do, right? Something that works around that. So it's interesting. It was really important to me when I created this program that it deal with the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, because I have yet to see a program out there that does that. And that's why I had a really hard time aligning myself fully with any one particular thing. And I was like, we just got to create it, because there's too many people out there. There's some groups, there's intuitive eating out there that has very similar eating type guidelines, but they don't deal with the physical and the spiritual. So for instance, if somebody tells you that your doctor tells you really need to lose 20 pounds because, your knees are dying or whatever, they will get really angry about that and say, you know, you're fat shaming me and we shouldn't have to change our size and blah, blah, blah. And I think where I agree and disagree here is, yes, your worth is not based on your size. Your worth is not based on even your behavior. Your worth is eternal. You are a child of God. Your worth never changes. But, you know, my hips are killing me, and I still have about 50 pounds to be in a healthy weight range. And I can tell you, if you want to go to the dog store or the dog food store and pick up a 50-pound bag of dog food and carry it around with you every day, you will soon find out what I'm dealing with every day. And it's a reality that if I want to have the most productive, happy, healthy life, I need to figure out how to remove that, right, in a healthy way. But the difference is that in the old days, I used to think of myself as being worthless because I couldn't figure out how to do that. And I hated myself. I thought it made me less than. It was just this huge negative self-demeaning thing in my life. And now it's become just more of a fact and a self-care issue, right? I now care about myself. Therefore, I want to take care of this body I've been given. I care about myself. Therefore, I want to find out what the emotional things are that I'm still buying into that are not true, so I can weed those out and get the truth in there. And I started asking myself, what does Heavenly Father want from me? And I don't think he wants for me to be physically bound to a chair or to anything else because I hate myself so much. I don't think he wants me hating this body that is supposed to be one of the greatest gifts he's given me. I don't think he wants me abusing that body. So you can see how the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual really do tie in. It's all one big circle. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Just kind of going back to my mom, back a couple of years ago, she had a minor procedure on her knee, and so she used a cane for a short time. Well, she was supposed to use it for a short time. And 6 months later, she came to my house and she's still using the cane. And I'm like, why are you using the cane? Is your knee bothering you? Well, no, it doesn't bother me to walk. Well, then why are you using the cane? And it's like, it's those types of things that we find as crutches, or it's that mindset of, oh, I'm old now, so I need to use a cane, which is not valid. And when we do things like that, then it's like I explained to her, I said, the more you use the cane, the less your body is working and the more you're losing your balance and your strength. And so anyway, just made me think of that. I don't even remember what the question is.
That was a great comment. No, I appreciate that. I just had dinner or lunch recently with my mom and a bunch of her friends. Did I tell you this last week, Julie?
I don't remember.
Well, we all went out to lunch. My mom used to have a group of friends, and they would get together every month and play this game called Bunko, take turns at people's houses. They were all just good friends. I think they spent 30 years doing this every month. So I became really good friends with them because I was good friends with their kids, and it was just all one big thing. So I drove my mom to this lunch, and all of them are up there in age now. I think the youngest is maybe 75, and the oldest was 84. And it was so interesting to see, because I knew them from young kids, when I was a young kid, and to see them through all these decades and who has held up well and who hasn't. And it's interesting that physical definitely came into it. There's a woman that has walked every day of her life and just faithfully, taking care of her body. And she's been divorced since I was a kid, but she has served several missions, and she just has the energy, way more energy than I have. And she has a good attitude. She just has a happy, positive life. Then there's other people who are really kind of declining, and they've not taken care of themselves physically. They have different, the more negative they are, the more they tended to not be as happy now as those who have kind of had that positive outlook throughout their life. Those who tended to have a rich spiritual life seem to have a lot more happiness and peace now than those who haven't. And it's just interesting at my age, it's like God's saying, Becky, pay attention, right?
Right.
Which path do you want to be on? Because you're 50 now. That means you're going to, you know, if all goes well, you're going to get to this age and you get to determine what style of life you want to have. I think it was Elder Scott said, we will all live to the age we're supposed to live, but you get to choose what quality of life you want during that time. And I thought, oh man, what if I'm destined to live to 100? And then I'm miserable because I just beat the crap out of myself. Because some people are like, well, if I die, I die. I'm like, yeah, but what if you don't die?
Exactly.
There are worse things than dying, right?
No, I agree.
There are worse things than dying.
I was actually, Elder Scott's daughter was my friend and neighbor in Texas, and I know that he took really good care of himself. He would go to the clinic in Dallas every year and make sure, he was really, so he not only said that, he lived it.
Okay, perfect example, right? Elder Russell M. Nelson.
Yeah, exactly.
You watch that guy. Here's a man who understood the heart, right? World famous surgeon, understood what was necessary for a healthy heart. And that man, he still goes skiing all the time, all winter long with his family at 94.
Right, exactly.
I mean, yeah. Does he have a problem running up the stairs when he's at conference? Nope. Does he? I mean, he is just, but the great thing is it's not just physical, right? You look at his emotional health, you look at his spiritual health. And I think that those are the roots, right? When you understand your worth, when you understand who you are, when you understand what God wants for you and what you want for yourself, then doing the physical becomes easier, right? Taking care of yourself becomes easier because you want to at that point. All these decades, I was trying to take care of my physical self, but it was for all the wrong reasons. It was because of all the things I didn't want, and it didn't work. It didn't work because, I won't go into people who are living too much. Let's go with my brother who died of alcoholism. If you tell somebody like that, Jeff, you've got to stop drinking. It's killing you. You know what their thought is? Good. Please let it kill me faster. They're miserable, right? And I felt the same way with food. People would say, it's killing you. And I'd think like, well, yay, because I'm not happy anyway. Big deal. In fact, I used to think people would be better off without me, blah, 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 jump into my self-pity mode. But, when you're like that, you really don't care if you die sooner. And so the root has to be spiritual. When you understand who we are and we understand all that stuff, then the emotional comes along. And then once that starts shifting, it's so much easier to change the physical. So don't get stuck in the trap of focusing on the physical first, but don't dismiss the physical, right? It's all a part of it. So a couple more questions for you before we're done. So this food for thought, let me share my screen with you and I'll show you what it looks like this week. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, so Julie, you can't see it, but you'll see it online. So
I can see it
this week.
I can see it.
Oh, you can't. Oh, that's right. I just can't see you. Sorry.
You just can't see me because I don't have a camera.
Okay, good. So it's just a reminder of some of these questions. I really want you to take this seriously. All right. If you were my private coaching client, I would hold your butt to the fire on this big time. And so and there's only 2 of you. So you're like a semi-private coaching client. So we're going to make this really good. Let's do it really well. I want you to spend some serious time journaling about this because it will make a big difference in how you see yourself and how you see what you're headed for. And this is what you can pull out and read over and over and over when you're struggling. Okay. So I really want you to ask yourself, number 1, where do I want to be in my relationship with food 20 years from now? Be very specific. And I've got some, possible questions here. Like, what do you want to be able to do physically and why? And be as detailed as I want to climb up on a chair. Because until you can't climb on a chair, you don't realize, oh my crap, I could lose the ability to climb on a chair. That was really eye-opening for me. How much of your time and effort do you want to dedicate to thinking about food? Right? You're going to have to do some, decide how much do I want to deal with that? How much do you want to plan it, prepare it, worry about it? Right? What activities do you want to be able to participate in? So those are things we talked about today. And then when you're ready, when you get through that, and if it takes you an entire week to journal through that, just do that. Because that's, I think, the hugest, most important piece for what we're focusing on. But it was really helpful for me to go beyond the food piece and start really journaling the rest of my life and where I wanted to be there. So I put in here some of those questions. Where do you want to be in your relationship with God? That's huge. I struggled and still struggle sometimes to trust God more than I trust food, right? I don't even think of it that way when it's happening. But why was I reaching for handfuls of candy corn on Saturday? Because I didn't immediately think, I should go to God and talk to him about this thing I'm really frustrated with and get his advice. No, I thought a handful of candy corn will take care of it, right? Stupid. But if I had $1 for every time I've done that, I would be a really rich woman. And then where do you want to be in your relationship with others, right? What about your relationship with your spouse, with your kids, with your neighbors, whatever? Pick those relationships that are most important to you and think through, okay, 20 years from now. And if I want it to be this in 20 years from now, what do I have to do today to start getting there? Where do you want to be 20 years from now in your work? And that could mean paid work. It could mean volunteer work. It could just mean how you're going to spend your time. Okay. Etc. So then then I love this question that I put on the food for thought. This was another one that I journaled about clear back then that I love. If you ran across a 3-minute video of yourself, your life, it was just like these little highlight clips, and you ran into that 3 years from now. So you're dusting your living room and all of a sudden you see this DVD sitting there and it's called My Life 2018 to the present. Okay. So it's now the year 2021 and you see this video and you're like, holy crap, somebody took a video of my life for the last 3 years. Okay. What would you want to see on that clip, on those clips? So create a really vivid picture of what it would look like. What kind of music would be in the background? Would it be motivational? Would it be sad? Would it be, I have a feeling you won't want it to be sad, but what would it look like? And if you could see yourself developing these skills that you want over the next 3 years, what would it look like? Okay. So I love that question. And so I'm going to go on the Facebook page this week and I'm going to ask some of these questions once in a while. And I want you to actually get on and answer them. Okay. So just be thinking about it and give us a little glimpse of some of what you're thinking about as you go through these questions. Okay. And then down on the second page, I just put a notice that the ebook is going out. It's actually going out tomorrow. If you're on, you guys should both be on my email list, right? Do you get my emails on Tuesdays?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll get a thing for downloading. You can actually use this as a link on this that you can download it here as well. But if I were you, I'd wait till tomorrow because I've got some people proofreading for me and somebody got back with some good notes to me that I'm going to spend today revising it. So you could download it today and re-download it tomorrow if you want to. But I would really encourage you to because it's kind of this fundamental, easy process of what do I do when I'm faced with fears and how do I turn them around into faith or into fuel to kind of help you move forward? Because fear is really the root of all of this, right? Fear that we'll be missing out, fear that we're not enough, fear that, somehow we're defective, fear that we'll be left alone, all that stuff. So I would really encourage you to read it. It's a tiny book. It's an ebook. I think it's got a total of 44 pages, and that includes pages like this that are like, the title page and other stuff. So I think there's really like 40 pages to read. But anyway, you guys are inspirational for me. This helps me as much as I think it helps you. So I'm grateful for that. Where's my stop share button? There we go. So do you guys have any questions or comments before we go?
I just want to let you know that I am Facebook challenged. I'm not on Facebook, so
that's okay.
I need somebody to help me get on there and navigate and figure it out. I have a friend that's going to help me. I just don't know when that's going to happen. So
okay, well, and I know we may all be on a 10-day fast from social media here sometime soon. I will still keep up my business pages, so when you see me on there, don't be surprised. And if you're not on there, I'm not going to freak out. But I would like to what I'm trying to do is encourage that this be a way that we can contact each other through the week, or people feel safe to post challenges that they're having, or to get feedback, or, you know, maybe you do this and you're just really struggling in the middle of the week, and you can get on and say, you know what, I have a half a cake on my counter and that's all I can think about. And so what do I do now? And maybe that's a place that we can go
Throw
on
it away.
each other some. Yeah. And, you know, and maybe that's the moment where Julie Kana says, throw it away. And Becky says, okay, think about what's going on emotionally in your life. And, you know, you're going to get all sorts of great feedback. But I think I love the Facebook piece, even though we really haven't gotten it established yet. It's a way that we can reach out 24/7 and get some help. And even just, it's kind of a journaling thing, really. If you're frustrated, you can journal and say, here's what I'm frustrated about right now. Or you can get on and say, oh my gosh, I just tried this and it worked. Right? Or Mitzi could get out on the other day and say, you know what, I really found myself wanting to eat this and I chose not to. And the rest of us can say, yay, Mitzi, good job. Right? So the group support in this, I think, is a really key piece. And that's why I encourage people to join by video when they can, so that we can see each other's faces, get to know each other, know their names. You can also change your name on what shows on your screen.
Oh, yeah. How do I do that?
Yeah. So if you go to the top of your little screen where you can see your face, there's
Got it.
will show a mute and then 3 little dots. If you click the 3 little dots, it'll give you the chance to rename.
Did it.
There you go.
I think it lets you do it every time you log in too.
Will it just, can you do it once and have it stay there?
Yeah, there's a little box that you could check that says remember my thing.
Okay, good. Because that's a pain when you have to remember every time.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just a good way we can, you know, become friends and get to know each other. And just so you guys know, my strategy, I think that the more people we get in these groups, the better. Ideal for me is if every group had 10 people on it at any time. That would be like a perfect number to really work and support one another, but not be too big to get crowded. And so my goal is to keep getting people in the program. So when people download the book, they're going to start getting emails that say, hey, join this program. Hopefully you guys won't, because what happens is as soon as somebody's in the program, then I will go take them off that list, so they're not continually getting emails. If I do screw up and you get one, just ignore it, and you can let me know and I'll keep working on getting that taken care of. But that's one of the ways I'm starting to get people aware. And then I'll be doing another webinar probably early November to kind of help people get through the holidays. And every time I do that, I'll offer them, you know, an opportunity to join us. But it's going to take some time for people to even know who we are, what we're doing, have any trust in what we're doing. So if you have friends that you think would really benefit from this, send them our way. Let's get them in and start building up some traction and some momentum. And then I have to believe that there's a million people out here who need and want this. Mm-hmm. But it'll take some time to grow it. So meanwhile, we get just the 3 of us doing little semi-group coaching, right? Semi-private coaching, I should call it.
Yeah. So I had one other quick thought that's helped me in the past, and I've kind of gone away from it. And this morning I went back to it, and I think it will really help. And that is listening to positive talk and self-talk. And so if you kind of come up with that list of what you want it to look like in 3 years and 20 years, and you state it in a positive way, you can record it and just listen to it in the morning.
Oh, what a good idea.
2 or 3 or 4 times a day, even if you really want to get on top of things. It's really, really helpful because it keeps your vision in front of you.
That is a good idea, Julie. I thought you were going to say, you know, just to be listening to other positive, uplifting things, which is true as well.
Yeah.
But I like that idea of recording it yourself, hearing it in your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's
and hearing specifically what it is you've decided that you want.
I love that. So maybe you guys can think about that as you're doing your journaling this week on these questions. You know, how would you boil it down to remind yourself? That's really a good idea. Yeah. And another fun thing is when you discover what you want in the future, to find people who have already gotten it, because I believe for a long time, like, nobody else has done this. How do I find somebody else who's done it to have some faith in it? Because you start looking around, there's people that have done it, and there's people who are successful and happy and have peace and all that stuff, and they've found health and balance. And so those people exist, and it's part of why we want to keep communicating with each other, to keep that positive view and insight that it is possible. So thanks for sharing that. Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, I will upload this to the Facebook page as soon as we're done, and I will upload, well, I won't put the video on the Facebook page, but I'll put the food for thought on the Facebook page, and I'll also keep putting it on the page online so you can get to them at the same time. Okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Takes me about a half hour to get it all downloaded and up there, but we'll see you soon. And I'll be available Thursday night if you guys want to get on again. And have a great week. I'll see you on Facebook.
All right.
Okay. Bye.